Now let's take a moment to discuss using the distributive property to multiply a monomial by a polynomial. So we have a monomial, right? Because it's not being added or subtracted to anything. Now we have a polynomial. A polynomial is being added or subtracted. So we have y squared, a y, and something with no exponent, or with no variable next to it. None of this can be simplified. We have three different types of monomials being added or subtracted. So this is called a trinomial. Just some trivia. It's not something you necessarily have to remember, but just wanted to emphasize we are multiplying a monomial by a polynomial using the distributive property. Again, this should be nothing new other than we are putting terms to what we are doing. So let's go ahead and work this out. Now we're adding and subtracting in addition to multiplying using properties of exponents. So this gets a little bit more complicated. So you really have to keep your rules in order at this point. So let's take a look. We're going to distribute this negative 2y to 4y squared, distribute it to 3y, and distribute it to negative 5. So we have negative 2y times 4y squared plus negative 2y times 3y plus negative 2y times the negative 5. Now it's a minus 5, so we have to make sure we have that negative next to it. Okay, let's start working this out. We have a negative 2 and a 4, so we can multiply those together using the associative and commutative rules. We have a y and a y squared. That is going to give us y to the third. So we have next a negative 2 times 3. It's going to give us minus 6. You could say plus negative 6, but it wouldn't necessarily be simplified. And then we have y times y. That's going to be y squared, by definition of what exponents are. Then our final one, we have negative 2 times negative 5. Negative times negative is positive, so that's going to be a positive 10. We only have one y. So that's as simplified as it gets, as long as my y doesn't disappear. So that's our final answer. Let's look at this next one. We're going to distribute this whole ugly thing to each of these three items. So let's start. We have negative 3x cubed y, or positive 3, 3x cubed y times x squared plus 3x cubed y times, and this is a negative because it's minus, negative 8xy. Now that negative only sticks to the 8, it doesn't stick to the x or the y. So don't feel like you have to have multiple negatives in there. And we have 3x cubed y times y squared. Ooh, barely fit that on there. All right, so this part's not going to be so bad because we only have an x squared, so we just keep it as 3. Add those exponents together, x to the 5th, y. Now we have a 3 times a negative 8. That's going to be negative 24, x to the 4th, y squared. Again, that negative just sticks to the 8. You don't have to worry about putting it on the x or the y. It's just the 8. Then we have 3x to the 3rd. Then we have y times y squared. That'll give us y to the 3rd. So go ahead and work on these student-led examples, and we will work on the next property.